Narcissism. Everybody is using this word. Narcissism is at the core of every abusive relationship.
The only thing you've done without my help is get sick.
I've seen it. It's awful.
Gaslighting is like a main narcissistic trait.
You are so confused. Don't act crazy.
Dang!
It could be your parent, your adult child, your spouse. It could be a boss in a job you need to keep.
She cried herself to sleep.
You were hurting them.
Possible.
Not possible, definite.
Our RTT family, you asked for it, and here it is. Backed by popular demand is one of our favorites. World's leading expert on narcissism and author of 2 books on the topic, Dr. Ramani. You bring the fire every time, and
Thank you.
you really hit it on the head. And we had so many people, and even in our personal lives, asking, how the hell do we survive the narcissist in our lives?
Right? Because this could be your mother, your father,
Yeah.
your sister, your adult child,
Yes.
your spouse.
Yeah.
It could be a boss in a job you need to keep.
Right.
It's a topic that is kind of trending, narcissism, and so I think it would be really cool if you could just remind us what the definition is.
You're right. Everybody is using this word right now. So let's start with the core of it and build out. People who are narcissistic are deeply insecure, and we don't see that part of it. Deeply insecure. Because they're so insecure and they don't want to be found out, they cover themselves in all of this grandiosity, entitlement, arrogance. But then there is this lack of empathy, which to me is the most lethal part of this. They don't care. These are folks who are very controlling. Sometimes they're downright paranoid. They think people are out to get them all the time.
I'm talking to quite a few people. Narcissists tend to be very charming.
Oh, yeah.
What they portray with family and friends versus what's happening behind closed doors is so drastically different.
They're building a perfect suit of armor because there's all this insecurity to be protected. So they work on their outsides so nobody will notice the insides.
Right.
Yeah.
And that charm, charisma, confidence are the front game for a person who's narcissistic, to the point where I meet someone charismatic, I'm terrified. I'm like, I gotta go.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
They're too nice.
I know, I gotta go.
How do we interact with narcissists in our lives when we can't necessarily walk away from them?
People are watching this saying, okay, obviously I know what I should do. I should walk. But we don't have that luxury of just walking away from everyone. And so then people feel like, what do I just need to keep things the way they are? No, you don't.
Okay.
This is really a game of, number one, and above all else, radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is understanding this is not going to change. Personality styles do not change, okay? So the only thing you can do is work on your approach to this and your expectations. Those expectations need to be realistic.
Even if it's just like, okay, I'm going through the same cycle, but now I'm protecting myself emotionally
Yes.
because
Yes.
I know what's actually going on.
Yeah, recognizing what you're dealing with.
Right.
Yeah.
So how does one do that?
There's a technique I use. I call it the DEEP technique. You know, so
Okay.
remember it. DEEP stands for don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, and don't personalize this. Okay, so you think about how many times you go deeper in with someone, and that's why I say deep, like, no, I never said that, or it didn't happen that way.
You almost need to detach.
Completely. In fact, there's a name for that disengagement. It's called gray rocking. Being as boring as a gray rock. You become almost inert, right? You're like completely uninteresting. You're like,
Okay,
yeah.
totally.
So they have
Got it.
nothing to feed off
So
of.
they have nothing to feed off. And now initially, and this is one thing I want to warn everyone watching this, initially when you go gray rock on a narcissist, they get really mad
I
because they're
was
looking
gonna
for a fight.
say, because
Yeah.
that makes you look like, almost like you're being condescending. Like,
But you can
You're
gray
not-
rock. You can
That's
get
not gray rocky. This isn't gray rocky.
Because you're not feeding them with something we call narcissistic supply. Feeding their ego, whether it's with validation or with arguments. Because for narcissistic people, winning is everything. So if you don't give them the argument, they're going to lose interest in you and move to the person they can have the argument with.
Wow.
That's it.
It's also about no longer sharing of yourself with them. You don't tell them the good things that happen in your life. You don't tell them about the bad things that happen in your life, because they're going to make fun of the good things And they're going to criticize you even more for the bad things.
Yeah.
I don't want people to watch this saying, I'm going to try these techniques and then
And
maybe
try
I'm
to
going to get
change
through
them.
to the
Right.
narcissist.
No.
That's not going to happen. You're
wait a
doing this
minute.
for you.
To protect
Yes,
yourself.
this is to protect yourself.
So a narcissist is never.
They're not going to change because they don't think there's anything wrong with how they're behaving.
And there's
no insight.
nothing that you can do to break that.
Only on your
to
side of
break
the street.
through.
Only on your side. You're not
Even
gonna
if they
change them.
have like little tiny breakthroughs, there will be something that happens that will trigger them to go right back into
Right.
the mechanism that they know.
And they're just unaware.
They're
like-
unaware, and
Yeah.
that unawareness is what throws people off. People say, are they like rubbing their hands together in a back room saying, all right, I'm going ready, I'm going to go gaslight Jaden
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
They're
no,
not
no, no,
doing
no,
that.
no, no.
They're
Yeah.
constantly protecting themselves.
Yeah.
Everything they do is self-protection.
So we put together some scenarios with Dr. Ramani, and first, the malignant narcissist.
Yeah, that
This
sounds
one-
dangerous,
Yeah.
right?
This is very psychologically dangerous and at times can actually literally be physically dangerous. This is the form of narcissism that's actually closest to psychopathy. Someone who will lie, cheat, harm you to your face and feel no remorse. Pay attention to this scenario. It's a pattern you sometimes see in relationships that last a really, really long time. These are people who've been married for 15 years and they have 3 kids. This scene you're going to see here is a really good glimpse at what malignant narcissism can look like.
Hey, babe. What are you watching?
Oh, something you just ruined by walking in front.
Sorry. Don't forget, I have that procedure on Monday.
Yeah.
Will you come with me?
Do you really need someone to go with you to that?
I'm pretty scared.
I don't know what to tell you. You already know I don't like hospitals. Isn't it enough I'm already paying for your health insurance?
Of course, I wish my husband was jumping at the chance to take care of me. But, you know, he doesn't really like hospitals.
Here we go with the guilt trip. It's you. I mean, the only thing you've done without my help is get sick. And honestly, not sure I can really do this anymore.
Okay, I'm sorry. And pretend I didn't say anything. He does pay all the bills and the insurance. And I am sick a lot. I really shouldn't complain.
Wow.
When I tell you I have seen that one,
That just seems blatantly abusive,
it's
though.
awful.
But
it's awful.
It's awful, right? Narcissistic people view sick people as inconveniences.
Wow.
They're like, you just made my life harder. I don't want to go to the hospital. And now they have to feel bad for the sick person. Well, that's too much empathy for them.
That's too much empathy.
And I have heard that story so many times, I can't count it. It is utter devastation. And
Yes.
they threaten things like leaving. And threatening leaving is the ultimate power play.
Right.
I'm just confused as to how they can look at themselves and think that's okay.
Because they're not thinking. There's no self-reflective capacity, Willow. They do not look inward. You know how you're constantly looking inward and saying, did I do the
Almost
right
to
thing?
a fault.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
With self-analyzation.
But that ability to look inwards and say, how am I affecting another person through my words, through my actions? That's empathy. We always talk about empathy of like, do I get your feelings? Empathy is paying attention to how I talk, carry myself, and how it might impact someone else. And you got to remember too, you look at a story like this, you're going, why'd she marry him? They don't act like this on the first date.
Yeah, exactly.
And let me tell you, that's lightweight. What we just saw right there, that is lightweight.
And you said you've seen this. What happened?
Unfortunately, I had to distance myself from my girlfriend and her husband because it was just too brutal to watch. That's why it's so upsetting because, you know, I've seen it. It's awful.
Yeah.
And it can be so insidious.
And I think narcissism is at the core of every domestically abusive relationship.
Absolutely.
I do, yeah.
Emotionally abusive relationships
All.
and
All of
physically
them.
abusive relationships. I have to agree with you.
Yeah,
That
because-
makes
yes.
total
Yeah.
sense. I never even thought about.
Because even that lack of empathy, like
Yeah.
to see someone being so physically hurt and to keep kicking them
Doing
while
it.
they're down.
Yes.
The domestic violence folks say, instead of asking why she's not leaving, let's question his behavior, because that's the
right.
problem.
Right.
So what do you do in a scenario like this?
So remember, we've talked about this idea about going deep, right? Not defending, not engaging, not explaining, not personalizing.
Right.
The not personalizing is really important here because people say, well, this is personal.
I know,
Right?
yeah.
Somebody
There's-
you love, it's her husband.
There's a difference between something being personal, it's very personal, and not personalizing it. She's not responsible for his conduct. His behavior is bad.
I just can't imagine staying in a relationship like that for so
But
long.
there's so many people.
So
Gam,
many
who
people.
have.
Yeah.
So, show us how to handle this.
Yes.
Don't forget, I have that procedure on Monday.
Do you really need someone to go with you to that?
My sister will take me.
All right, cool.
Dang!
That's it. So I know
My
you're
sister
thinking,
will take me, and I'll be sending your ass divorce papers.
I know.
and the bill. And the bill.
So, but you see what happens? People are saying, what is she doing? So she's just rolling over. She's not rolling over. She is trying to survive. When people stay in these relationships, I often think of it in two ways. One is practical.
Yep.
Money, children.
Children.
She's gonna have to share custody. She
Yeah,
doesn't want to
she
do
can't- you
that.
can't get rid of them.
She doesn't
Yeah.
want to do that. Then there's the other piece where people in these relationships already blame themselves. I'm not working. He makes the money. Maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe I'm the one who's being difficult. That justifying is actually at the core of something we call the trauma bond. That when a person is in a relationship with a narcissist, it's this old pattern, usually from childhood, where they've learned to justify another person's bad behavior, and over time, justification equals love.
Whoa.
That's the pattern.
You know what, Dr. Romani, you really hit on something there.
That's hard.
It's tough.
It's tough.
Malignant
And that's-
narcissist relationships are tough.
So next is a very common but very misunderstood type of narcissist, which is a covert.
What you're about to see is a really typical sort of covert narcissistic interaction. This is a form of narcissism. And if I was to put it in a word, it's victimized. They're always the victim. They're always blaming everyone else. They do not take responsibility. Their entitlement is more quiet. And in this scene, it's between two sisters-in-law.
So how's work going? Oh, not good. So unfair. Mary got the promotion. I mean, of course she did. You know, my boss knows her dad, so everything always goes her way.
I thought Mary was one who brought in that big account last year, and everyone thinks she's great.
So what? I made it on my own. I didn't have any connections. I work harder than everyone else. And I never get it my way. I mean, I just have a dumb boss. I mean, I'm so much smarter than her, but no one has given me a chance to prove that.
Sarah, I think you're great. It's just that it seems like maybe Mary deserves it.
You don't get it. You don't. And you never support me.
How can Sarah say I'm not supportive? That really hurt my feelings. I feel like I spend 90% of my time listening to her complain.
And honestly, you're starting to sound like everyone else. I don't even think I'm gonna go into work tomorrow. Then everyone can see how valuable I am.
Who else would be her friend? I don't want her to be all alone. I guess she's not that bad.
Oh, wow.
That person who's in constant victim speak,
Yeah.
no one ever gives me a chance. Nothing ever goes my way. You know, someday people are going to see how great I am, and boy, you'll all be sorry. It's always very negative. They're constant malcontents. They're never happy.
Right.
Now, I know some malcontents.
Yeah.
And a lot of malcontents are covert narcissists. Oh, this restaurant's too crowded. This restaurant's too empty. Ugh, this view is terrible. Nothing ever makes them happy.
Wow. So what are we supposed to do when we have that? Yeah.
The number one thing you should do is really avoid the temptation to rescue them. Because a lot of people almost want to jump into shrink mode with them. No, you're really great. Or, oh, let me see if I can fix this. You don't like this restaurant? We could go find another. See what I'm saying? A lot of people fall into that rescue-y place.
Totally me.
Yeah, that's what I was about to be like, that's me.
But if it's a family member, you feel like you have a responsibility.
Like,
even when I
help
was
rescue them.
Right, but here's the thing, you never can.
Right, because
So you're
it
going to
never
keep trying to, that never stops. You rescue them this one time, and then it happens again. Oh,
She's
that's what I'm
in a
saying.
situation right now.
So this might break you of the cycle. Because it's going to get you nowhere.
Right.
You see what cycle you've been in and how it's been frustrating, how it's taken up so much of your time.
Right.
When that person is just li-li-loo, li-li-la, li-li-li.
when I was watching that, in my mind, I'm going, just, be compassionate, because she's going through something.
Right.
But see what the sister-in-law was saying at the end. She's saying 90% of the time, it's me listening to her stuff. So it never ends. When you fix one mess, it's always the next mess because they always feel life is unfair to them. Only them.
Yes.
Only them.
Almost they enjoy being in that
Oh, heck yeah. That victim mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they get validation, Gammy. Because like, you've been through so much.
Yeah.
So that's validation. You're a fighter.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at a strategy for this.
So how's work going? Oh, not good. So unfair. Mary got the promotion. I mean, of course she did. You know, my boss knows her dad, so everything always goes her way. I made it on my own. I didn't have any connections. I work harder than everyone else. I never get in my way. I just have a dumb boss. I'm so much smarter than her, but no one has ever given me the chance to prove it.
I hear you. By me disengaging, I feel so good that I don't have to fall down that rabbit hole of a spiral, because that was gonna cost me several hours.
So
she
gets
didn't.
it.
She didn't even respond.
Yeah. That's it. And that's her sister-in-law. So maybe, you know, maybe she's tight with her brother or whatever. 'Cause I know people are saying, well, aren't you just enabling her? She's not her therapist.
Right.
That's not her job to
No.
fix her. I say when you have someone like this, don't go on vacation with this person. This is going to be the most miserable week of your
Yes.
life.
Right.
And I say, people, set a timer and say, you know what, I'm so sorry. Oh, I got to go.
Can you change the subject? Like if she was there, it was like, girl, you had those stretches, you've really gotten good at that.
You can try that. Again, these are all, you see how they're all short-term strategies, right? How
Right.
many times are you going to change the subject?
Her sister-in-law is just going to keep in that negative spin.
Yes.
It seems like gaslighting is like a main narcissistic trait.
Right.
Yes.
So let's talk about what that is,
Right.
actually.
So gaslighting, there's the other hot word at the time. Gaslighting is a form of manipulation where you really kind of get power over a person by doubting and invalidating their reality. You deny their reality. And when you deny someone's reality, 90% of people are like, maybe they're right. Maybe I didn't say that.
Right.
We doubt ourselves. When it happens repeatedly, you feel like you're literally going crazy.
Yeah.
You no longer believe yourself. The only person who can really gaslight you is someone who either has some power or who you already trust a little already. That's why family members gaslight. That's why partners gaslight. So it's not just, gaslighting is not just lying. Gaslighting is lying and then twisting the knife further so you feel crazy.
Could it also be in a form of like you're in an argument and they're like, I never said that.
Well, that's the most
time.
classical
You're like,
form of gaslighting.
Yo, do I need to be recording our conversations?
There it is, though. The first time someone says to me, I'm going to start recording my conversation, I'm like, you're being gaslighted. It's that simple. Or when you feel the need to show someone, like, there's the text. You're being gaslighted. Because you feel like you need proof. When you feel like you need to bring an evidence base for your feelings, you're being gaslighted.
Golly day. All right, well, we also have an example of gaslighting.
Let's do it.
Babe, this chicken is good.
Right? Who was that?
Oh, one of the guys from my fantasy league.
Well, it looked like it said Melissa, and the message was 2 hearts.
Wow. You always go there.
Yeah, I do always go there, especially given our track record.
Okay, fine. It was Melissa, Greg's wife, planning a surprise golf trip for him. Can we just get through one meal without you accusing me of something? You're way too sensitive. If I was getting heart texts from another woman, you think I would have my phone on the table for you to see it?
Well, show me your phone then.
You are so confused. Don't act crazy. Look, I'm leaving out of town soon. I just wanted to have a good night, us chilling, no drama. You don't want me going out of town not feeling you, right?
I'm afraid that Brian is gonna cheat on me again, and I just need to get a hold of myself with all the wild accusations. You know, baby, I'm sorry. You're right, okay?
You see what I'm saying? She's almost like trying to win him back over again. He keeps the power.
Wow.
So a big way we get people gaslight each other is they say things like, that never happened. You always do that. There's no nevers and alwayses in relationships, right? That's a gaslight. I tell people, I need you to write down all this icky stuff that's happening in the relationship every time that they've doubted your reality so you can see it's a pattern. There's no possibility of a long-term healthy relationship with somebody who's a chronic gaslighter. It's just not possible.
All right, so as we were putting together this table, Alex, a 36-year-old, reached out and said he was worried he was a narcissist. So Dr. Ramani sat down with him for a one-on-one session. This is very rare for this to happen, a narcissist asking for help.
Yeah, because they don't typically recognize it.
No, they don't. But you know when they do start recognizing it, Gammy? When everything starts falling apart in their life.
I'm here today because my dad is a narcissist. I've been suspected I might be one too. having hurt some people I loved in my life recently, I've been really scared that I will only get worse as life goes on. The way I would describe my life now is depressing, dark, confusing, lonely. I've sort of had a generally lucky life, I would say, in terms of, school being easy for me and getting straight A's and all of that, valedictorian, and I had a good job and, making decent money. And so things are just smooth. My dad always told me, don't feel like you're inadequate.
It sounds like you never did feel inadequate in that way.
Never. When you also have the best grades, you're being hired out of college to a six-figure salary, sort of combination of that becomes of, I am really good.
Right, I'm special.
Yeah, and so I know better than others in some ways.
Right, okay.
Right? So according to my dad, of course, I owe him for every little thing in my achievement.
Oh, okay.
Everything that's good, we owe to him. Everything that's bad is coming from somewhere else.
Okay.
My dad and I worked together. We argue a lot. The arguments became so unhealthy, right, over the little things, and I felt none of my ideas were meaningful to my dad. I said, Dad, I just don't think we work together well. He disowned me as a son.
He disowned you?
I clearly remember sitting on a couch, and he said, you're no longer my son.
Oh.
I didn't know anything about narcissism at the time, but what I understood is that my dad can be extremely cruel on a dime.
You pushed back on what your father wanted. You said no, first time ever. And he abandoned you, he rejected you.
I think he wanted me to feel very guilty.
He wanted to control you again.
That's when I started sort of seeing some signs of, how do I say, like the after effects of growing up in an environment. It's hard for me to tolerate bureaucracy.
Okay.
It's hard for me to tolerate incompetence. I get hired to a corporation that has a big structure. I'm working for this Fortune 500 company, and I feel like a number. And to me, it's like, okay, this is stupid, this is wrong. And it's really, I'm very impatient.
Yes, everyone you encounter every day of your life was shaped by their parents. You've so far laid out entitlement, I'm special.
Yes.
Arrogance,
sure.
I'm better than this. And contempt, this is stupid. I don't see the point in this, right? Yeah. So you're stacking up the logs here.
Oh, it's great, yes.
So,
I think at some point I got fired from 5 jobs in a row.
Why would you get fired?
Insubordination, wanting to do things my way only. One time I tried to get my boss fired.
All those jobs you were at, where you were insubordinating to people or mistreating them, you were hurting them. They went home, some of them cried, some of them couldn't sleep, some of them couldn't function, couldn't pay attention to their kids because they were thinking about how you behaved.
Possible.
Not possible, I would say definite.
And I never had a single thread of remorse about it.
Okay, so I had no remorse about the fact that I was ruining people's days with my conduct, and honestly, no empathy for how your conduct affected those people in those jobs.
He seems to have some emotion about.
Yeah, it seems like he cares.
About what?
A little bit.
Well, it seems like he cares about his behavior.
Or maybe how he's being perceived.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He cares about how he's being perceived.
Was he worrying about those people who
No,
were
he
getting
was
hurt at
worried
work?
about having to hear about how you were perceiving his actions.
Is it some of that insecurity coming out, though? Because even the way that you're describing it seems more of an anger and less of a sadness. When I looked at his eyes, he looked like he was about to cry.
Yes.
Yes.
He
know
was.
what I mean?
He was. I was there. He was.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Alex's life continued to unravel. And so here's more.
I meet a person of, love of my life, and, everything's going great. And then I think 3.5 years down the road, she started having conversations with me. She feels abandoned. She feels like I don't pay attention to her. We were considering marrying. We lived together for a long time. We got a dog together. And she was very caring. She's very empathetic.
You said she showed you a lot of empathy. Did you show her empathy?
Oh.
I showed her love at the times when I was there. But the amount of times I was present was not a lot.
Right, so it sounds like you showed her love and it was convenient for you.
I would, yes, though, yes. I think that's the ugly truth of it.
So in essence, you were the one who got to eat all the time and she was starving to death.
Who?
There was a very specific moment where we went to bed and she was crying next to me.
Right.
And she cried herself to sleep, and I was next to her, feeling horrible, absolutely terrified. I could feel the pain, but I had no clue what to do about it.
Aren't you terrified that this most beautiful thing in your world, you didn't know how to take care of it?
I'm absolutely terrified for two reasons. One, who am I going to hurt next? And two, how am I going to hurt myself next? Through that, will I even survive that?
Did you not almost survive this one?
Correct. I lived in a high rise, and I was at a point where I was on a balcony, and I was thinking of, I'm going to jump.
Do you want to reconcile with her?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Do you have contact with her?
She changed her number and email.
For someone to change their number and email after a breakup is not a good breakup. You may have hit what I call that proverbial narcissistic rock bottom, where nothing ended up working out. And I have to tell you, this is a very perilous space, and you've already walked one of those paths. You almost thought that this was over for you.
Yeah.
In listening to you talk, what I've sort of observed, there is certainly a pull to seek out validation, to be recognized for what you've done. You want that. I've got to say, if I worked with you, the irony is, I'd be like, yeah, I don't trust this guy. I don't like this guy. But the overall feeling I was having for you is pity. I feel sad for you. I feel sorry for you. And that, to me, is dangerous. And I'll tell you why. Let's say I'm a woman who meets you. I might say, like, okay, there's something really uncomfortable here. This person's quite egocentric. They're very arrogant, but, I feel for him. And they're going to want to rescue you. And that, Alex, is the ultimate manipulation.
Wow.
I was having a day.
Yeah, you were. You really were. It's just so hard to, because I see the pain in his eyes.
You're right.
Like, I see that he's
agree, Willow.
actually struggling.
But he's a rare one because at least this is a narcissist at a rock bottom because he has,
Correct.
to me, a lot more self-awareness than what I've seen.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
probably because he lived it.
He went through it with his father, yes.
Yeah.
But usually many people who are narcissistic had narcissistic parents. That's not unusual.
That's very interesting. You can see that he's just disconnected in a way that he can't understand how to connect in a
someone.
way
Correct.
to
And that
make it
kept
work.
going and going until it blew up for him. Do you have any other questions for me as we come to the end of this?
Do you feel there's hope?
You know, I actually feel that there's, I'm going to say there's conservative hope. And here's what I mean by that. I am not a big believer people change much from these patterns. I'm going to be frank with you. It's like literally climbing up a
I
greased
agree with you.
pole. It really, really is. You have to, every time you speak, every time you're with another person, you have to be mindful. You have to be aware. You have to be empathic, compassionate, respectful, reciprocal. Pay attention to how you're affecting them. Genuinely care about what they're going through. There can be no more of those sloppy days. There can't be the days where you are literally not paying attention to a partner who's crying next to you in bed. Do you really think you can do that?
Do I think I can? Don't know.
I've worked with people who've been where you are. And I have to tell you this, it's always been 3 steps up and 2 steps back. 3 steps up, 2 steps back. They make progress, but it's slow. And there's a lot of frustration. And people as smart as you who get away with it don't do frustration well. And what it means though, Alex, it means that when the big, fat, grandiose opportunity is put in front of you and the beautiful woman who's empathic is there and you got these 2 things on either side of a field, only you know what the healthy man is going to choose. And I can't predict that.
I do know now. The question is, will I choose it?
Will you choose it?
That's interesting because for a minute there, I saw him slip back into his old pattern.
Yeah.
You
I
see
saw
what I'm
it.
saying? And that's what I'm saying is that under the stresses, the conditions, the day to day, probably at least
Yes.
once a day, he's going
gonna
to
go
slip
back.
And then it comes down to how much can he get it right the other times. So remember, the thing with narcissism is that they're not bad all the time. Okay? They're good enough at the time to keep you hooked in.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard for folks.
I just keep going back to the crying next to him in the bed because, like, for me, that just seems like wow. Like, if you couldn't even turn over and be like, hey, even if it's like, what are you crying about? Just a acknowledgement, like, at
Happens
all.
all the time.
What he needs to do now is the equivalent of changing a habit. And we know how hard it is to change habits.
Yeah.
The only example I can give here is somebody trying to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay? Every day, every meal, even when they're stressed, they can't turn back to sugar. You have to think every time you put something in your mouth, he's got to think every time something come out of his mouth, basically. He has a really, really tough journey ahead of him. But I do applaud him for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, I really, really do.
We got to give him kudos, and
Yeah, I do. I do.
I'm sending
Yeah.
him all the
Yeah.
good
Love,
vibes and in hopes that he will decide to take that journey.
I hope so too.
As always, Dr. Romani, it's so nice to have you here. It's always so freaking enlightening.
Yeah,
like,
it
I'm like,
Thank you.
I've been studying narcissism, and every time you come in, it's like, nope.
Yeah.
One more step. Well, I appreciate the questions you asked too. So many people are struggling and they don't have access to a therapist.
Yeah.
That's the big
I
issue.
love how straightforward you are, and you know, even watching you in the conversation with him, it was just like, wow, like she really knows what the hell she's talking about.
I hope so. Well, I appreciate
Oh
that.
my goodness.
For our RTT fam out there, hope this was helpful for you. It was helpful for us. If you have more questions, send them in, you know, and I hope all of you talk to each other in all the Red Table family circles that we have on Facebook, and we are sending you all just love and blessings.
Are we ever gonna bring Bandito?
Bandit is too wild
He's
now.
a lot, Gab. I don't think
He's not gonna just sit in there anymore.
The dog.
Yeah, Bandit.
He's a little too chaotic for the brand.
How old's he?
He's only 9 months. He's
Oh,
still
he's
a
a-
puppy.
He's a baby, yeah.
He's still a
Bandit, I tried to help you.